Good evening. My name is Bernd Giels, and I am recording this episode on Saturday, November 28th. This is the 45th episode that I have uploaded to my YouTube channel, and this episode marks the beginning of a series that I'll be preparing over the next several weeks. In this episode, I am going to be sharing the foundation for the upcoming series of videos that I will be recording, which will be focused on my advocating for a better healthcare system here in the United States of America. In this particular episode, I'm going to focus solely on the decision-making process that I engaged in to ultimately decide to disclose much of the details of what I have experienced in the last approximate 18 months of my life. I came to this decision to disclose much of the details of these last many months of my life after much reflection and outright agonizing over what was the best choice to make. I have endured a very difficult scenario in the last many months, and I did not come to this decision without much reflection and thought. So my decision to disclose my recent life history is motivated in large measure by my desire to create a better healthcare system, not just here in the state of Massachusetts where I live, but also in the United States of America, which is the sole country that I have citizenship in. So I'm going to discuss now the pros and cons that I wrote out as I was weighing the merits of disclosing my recent life history. I'm going to begin with the reasons that I found were supportive of the idea, and then also speak some about the reasons that were cons to the decision that I ultimately made. After recording this video, the subsequent videos will begin with material from my life in the year 2019, and they will be interspersed with reference to earlier life history, which is relevant to understanding my most recent experiences. So, as I was thinking about the possibility of sharing my recent history, I came up with many reasons, both supportive and not supportive of the idea. When I wrote out the pros of making such a choice, one of the first things that I wrote out was that by making a disclosure about my recent life history, it would take an immense psychological burden off my shoulders that I have been carrying for some time now. The stress that I have endured in these last many months has been extraordinary. It has rivaled the stress that I experienced at other very tender points in my life, including some of the earliest years of my life. This period of my life, since early 2019, has been one of the most difficult periods of my life. And that stress is attributable to a number of things, including the COVID-19 pandemic, my recent work history, and the people that I have encountered here in the state of Massachusetts. So that was one major reason that I ultimately noted as favoring my decision to disclose my recent history. Another major reason that was supportive of my idea of disclosure was my belief that by making my recent history known to the public, it might, in some way, perhaps very small, perhaps not, lead to some meaningful change that will improve the healthcare system here in the state of Massachusetts where I live. I honestly do not feel especially safe living in the state of Massachusetts because the healthcare system in this state has not been sufficient to meet my needs on a consistent basis. I have found good healthcare providers, and I have received some good care. But I have also experienced an extraordinary amount of things that give me great pause regarding the confidence that I feel in the system of this state, the state of Massachusetts where I live. Another reason that I chose to disclose this now is directly related to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. As most anyone who is alive and breathing and conscious knows, the last 8 months have been an extraordinary time in the world as we are living through a very horrible public health crisis that rivals some of the most other disruptive events in American and world history. As I was driving on my way to an outing today, I was listening to WGBH radio, and there was a great presentation that was providing some very thorough context on the history of the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, which, interestingly enough, is named in a somewhat misleading way because Spain, as I understand it, was not the origin point of that pandemic. So we're living through a very difficult time, and with public health emergencies of a scale that one experiences in a pandemic, one of the major things that we are all living with every day is uncertainty. Uncertainty about when this pandemic will end, uncertainty about how much more suffering we're all going to experience, uncertainty about how much economic damage and disruption will continue to afflict our lives. And though there is encouraging news in recent weeks that we are likely to have effective vaccines available to the larger populace sometime in 2021, most likely it seems in the second or third quarter of the year, that is still months away. And in no way does a pandemic necessarily prevent other significant national crises from happening as well. This year, 2020, has been a year to remember. And because I believe my story is an urgent one to be told, and because the circumstances are as bad as they are in the present moment, I believe it is very timely for me to share my story now. Another reason that I considered as supportive of my idea of disclosure was the fact that by doing so, I might actually find new professional opportunities for myself. In my earlier life history, I have done my own type of advocacy work. I wrote a blog about recovery from trauma for a period of 3 years, from 2013 to 2016. I have done a lot of work in my life in support of marginalized populations of people. And I have empathy for people who experience such unfortunate marginalization because I myself am a minority. Not just by virtue of the fact that I have a history of a disability, but also by virtue of my sexual orientation as a gay man. So I know the experience of being marginalized, being thought lesser of being ridiculed, mocked, mistreated, lied to, threatened, and the like. So, my decision to disclose is also motivated by my belief that this might personally benefit me in my own personal and potentially professional future. Related to my hope that this may inspire some change in the healthcare system in the state of Massachusetts is a belief that this could also inspire much larger reform throughout the country. I have, at times recently, debated the possibility of going back into the public sector and working in government here in the state of Massachusetts. And so by sharing my story, I believe that I might be able to inspire some more systemic change, as sharing my story might ultimately lead me to getting connected to like-minded people. And finally, another major reason that I noted as a potential benefit, as a reason to disclose my experience, is my storytelling skills. I identify as a storyteller as well as a writer, and by sharing this story, I can continue to enhance my storytelling credentials, as it were. So in short, I had a number of reasons to disclose my recent life history, And just to summarize, those were it would take an immense psychological burden off my shoulders. It could potentially improve the prospects for my own personal safety by hopefully, perhaps, improving the healthcare system here in the state of Massachusetts, where I currently live and have no plans to leave. It may also help me because I might find my way into some sort of new professional endeavors. I was also motivated to disclose because it is a difficult moment, and who knows when the opportunity to do so will be as suitable as it is right now. And also, as I noted, it could inspire larger systemic reform. And then finally, as I just noted, it could enhance my credentials, in a sense, as a storyteller. There were several reasons that I formulated that can be thought of as arguments against my disclosure. One of the major ones was that it could potentially cause harm to my professional future. That by being as public as I plan to be, I might be perceived as seeking revenge, as seeking to cause trouble when there is no good cause to do so. So one of the major concerns I had is that by taking this courageous step, I might be maligned and defamed in the court of public opinion, as it were. And I've already had that happen to me in the last 18 months, unwittingly so. I have encountered people that were incredibly dishonest, and their dishonesty hurt me, just as dishonesty of adults hurt my life when I was a kid many, many years ago. So that is one major reason that I hesitated, is the potential ramifications to my personal and professional life. Another reason that I hesitated is because part of what I experienced in the last 18 months involves the hospital system here in the state of Massachusetts. And there is some potential that I could have a strong foundation to seek out a lawyer and try to file a medical malpractice case. I have opted against that at the current moment because of a number of reasons. One, finding a lawyer in itself will take time and energy that right now I don't feel I have the ability to really spare. And even once I were to find a lawyer that might theoretically take a medical malpractice case, I would then have to find one that I thought was good and had good qualifications and good credentials, good references. That takes time. And then even finding a lawyer that I would feel comfortable with, I would have to find a lawyer who would actually want to take the case. And then beyond that, there would be the whole process of filing the case, which would be probably fairly complex because the number of parties involved in what I experienced these last 18 months. And then I would have to wait for the actual adjudication of whatever attempt at a claim I would file. And who knows how long that could take and how much more stress that would cause to me, especially since life is already very stressful right now due to the pandemic and all of its implications. So that was another major reason why I hesitated, is that maybe if I were to be patient some more and find yet another lawyer who would take a case, that maybe, just maybe, I would get some sort of benefit from taking that path. But I don't want to wait that long. I don't feel that the potential benefit is worth the investment of my time and energy that would be required. Finally, a third major reason why I have hesitated to disclose, but I'm going to anyway, is my current support system. I do not have in place the kind of support system that I need that would be helpful to have during this very stressful time. Though I do have friends in the state of Massachusetts, throughout this country, and in other parts of the world, I do not currently have anyone geographically close to me who I would feel so comfortable with that if I became sick with COVID-19, so dreadfully ill that I couldn't do basic things for myself, like cook for myself, I don't have anyone I'm so comfortable with as a friend who lives close to me who I would feel comfortable attending to very fundamental needs I might have if I were to become very sick. And so, given the risks of possibly contracting COVID-19 in the coming months, which are definitely a non-zero risk, given the economic circumstances of our current moment, I have opted to disclose because, as I've said, my story is important. What I have experienced is truly scandalous, I believe. It's an outrage. I believe the people of Massachusetts have a right to know. And I want to see a better healthcare system in this state where I live. So in my future episodes, I will be recounting in very great detail what I have experienced in these last 18 months. The next video that I record will be focused pretty much exclusively on my time working for an employer that marked the beginning of this 18-month saga that I have just now finally managed to relatively extricate myself from. So in the next video, I will be sharing that part of the beginning of this 18-month journey that I've been on. So I welcome you to follow along in those videos. And I also welcome you, if you are someone who would like to see fundamental positive change occur in our healthcare system, that you share my YouTube channel with your friends, even with your professional colleagues. I am more than willing to have my story known within the public domain. It is an important story, and I will be planning to complete this series of videos telling this story by no later than January 1st, 2021. So my plan, ideally, is to complete this storytelling series by the first of the new year of 2021. So thank you for watching. Future videos will, according to my plan, be no longer than 30 minutes per piece. I'm going to do my best to be diligent and structure them such that they always end within a preset, neat 30-minute window of time. They might be shorter, but my plan is that no individual video will be longer than 30 minutes. And by doing so, that will facilitate a relative ease in accessing the information within each video. And I do plan to do what I have done in previous videos, which is namely to describe the contents of the videos in the information box that appears on the YouTube channel screen for the particular video that you're watching. So if you want to learn more about the videos without having to watch the actual content, you can read the information box to learn about the details of what's inside. So I thank you for watching this first video. I welcome you to follow along, and the next video will be coming within the next 48 hours from the recording date of this video. Thank you.